What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Crew podcast. I am your host, Josh Fann of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com, and today I am joined by my co-host, Michael D'Arcy from KC Sports Report and Bleacher Report, and we're here in the aftermath of the Kansas City Chiefs winning Super Bowl 58. The parade is today. We're recording this as the parade is going on. And Michael and I had a chance to hop back on. You know, we had our post-game show the other night, quick little thing, just getting our initial thoughts out. We were both super busy, and I know there was a lot going on that night. But I mean, Michael, now that you've had a couple days to soak it in, man, how does it feel? You know, we're back-to-back champions, and this is a dynasty.
It feels incredibly sweet, man. I think that this Super Bowl means more than all the rest just because it was so unexpected. Not only was it unexpected, but you could kind of see by the emotion of the players on the field after they won it that, okay, even they thought that this game meant more to them than it did in years prior. You saw Patrick Mahomes doing the Jordan-esque thing where he falls on the ground and basically in disbelief, so to speak. I think for him, this game meant so much just to prove that he could do it even when nobody thought that he could. And, man, just looking back at that game, there were so many times where I was like, there's no way the Chiefs are going to win this football game. And they somehow found a way to win this football game. And I still am having a hard time believing that Mecole Hardman called game in a Super Bowl. That is maybe the craziest thing that's happened in 2024 this far. But, Josh, it feels unbelievable. The Chiefs are back-to-back champions, and they're going to have a legitimate shot to three-peat. But, you know, we have to celebrate this moment right now. The guys at the parade right now are absolutely getting wasted on a Wednesday afternoon, and they deserve it. They are the best team in the NFL. They've proven that in back-to-back seasons, and like you said, they're a dynasty now.
Yeah, it's just surreal to think about, and I do agree with you that this one kind of meant more to this team than the other two. I mean, I don't know. Some people will probably argue 2019 just because it was that first one that's like, oh my God, the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl for the first time in a lot of our lifetimes. So, you know, I get that, but it just felt like this one was so much sweeter because of the reasons you mentioned, that we weren't really expected to be here. Everyone had left this team for dead on Christmas Day, and it's like, how did they do it? Like, the NFL let us get one. We've said it over and over again, Michael. Like, the NFL let us get one that we shouldn't have gotten. This was the worst version of the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs this year, and yet they're Super Bowl champions, back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they're the first team to do it since the New England Patriots. I think it's like the first time in 6,000 days, over 6,000 days, that we've had a back-to-back champion in the NFL. That's a lot of days.
It's a lot of days. And listen, I don't want to look ahead. I want to enjoy this win. I want to enjoy what it's like being a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. I mean, only a handful of teams are able to experience that. But, man, it makes you feel like they've got a chance to go for three. And if Mahomes three-peats, we're going to have some conversations, and there will be some things that are said on my end for sure that are not going to be a very popular take. If Mahomes three-peats, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And it is impossible to three-peat in the NFL. And if he could do that based off of, you know, winning 2 Super Bowls the 2 years before that he shouldn't have won, man, it just feels like you said, the NFL let the Chiefs get one this year. And that is going to be a problem because I think they're going to go into the offseason. I think they're going to get wide receivers. I think they're going to extend Chris Jones, try to get L'Jarius Sneed under contract. You still have a lot of the core intact. We just extended Steve Spagnuolo. So, Josh, I think this team is going to be back and better than they even were this year.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they can easily be better. I made a video yesterday talking about how the Chiefs can three-peat in 2024. And I think the goal is the path to repeating, or three-peating, I should say, is very clear. One, keep your coaching staff intact. They've already done that. Everyone's going to be back next year. They didn't lose any of their assistants to head coaching jobs at other places. I know Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach, got mentioned for some DC openings that have since been filled. So it seems like he's sticking around. You got your coaching staff back together again for another year. That's incredible continuity. And it sounds like Eric Bieniemy may even be back on staff in 2024, and I think he's a valuable addition. We heard about how he came and talked to the team prior to the AFC Championship game, and it really got the guys fired up. So not only are you keeping the staff intact, you're bringing back your former offensive coordinator that you won 2 Super Bowls with, and I think that is a really, really good thing. Number 2, keep the defense together. I think if you can keep most of this defense together, you'll be just fine. Obviously, the 2 big ones are Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. There's some other marginal players that we'll see what happens with them, but I think as long as you find a way to keep Jones and Sneed, which is a lot easier said than done, and we'll have deeper conversations about this offseason, but if you can find a way to keep both of them, then all this team really needs is a slight retooling of the offense. Because throughout most of the year, all we really said was, hey, this team just needs one reliable veteran, one guy, just one solid, proven guy. And if they can just get that this offseason, it's going to be a lot harder for them to be worse than they were this year on offense in 2024. So the path to 3-peating is very clear. Now that's easier said than done. It's hard to win the championship. I don't want to make it seem like it's a layup just because they do those things, if they do those things. But, this is a great opportunity. I mean, they really do have an opportunity to do this again next year. And we'll talk about that. I kind of want to make this episode, though, a little bit of what we learned episode, just talking about what we learned from Super Bowl 58. So I do think we learned, and you kind of alluded to this, Mahomes being the greatest of all time. A lot of people aren't there yet with him, but what we learned from Super Bowl 58 is that Mahomes is chasing that GOAT title. He is chasing greatness because in order to be on pace to top Tom Brady, Mahomes really needed this one. He really needed to win this one because if he didn't win, there's a pretty fine line here. If he didn't win this one, he would have been 2-2 in Super Bowls. He would have lost to the far worse quarterback in Brock Purdy. That's no disrespect to Brock Purdy, but I mean, he's just not Patrick Mahomes. And that kind of would have been Patrick Mahomes' Eli Manning loss for early in his career. It just would not have been good. And since he did win, he's 3-1 in Super Bowls. He's been back-to-back. And now through the first 6 years of Mahomes' career, he has just as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady did in the first 6 years of his career, right? So, he's on pace now. And I saw a lot of Patriots fans on Twitter as soon as the Chiefs won that game saying stuff like, oh, he'll never be Brady. Oh, Brady beat him head-to-head. And it's like, you could just tell, and they'll never admit this, but they're getting queasy because they know that Mahomes has now entered that conversation, and the path to him now topping Tom Brady is very clear. Like, Mahomes has made a path to topping Tom Brady because let's remember, guys, Tom Brady, after he won his 3rd Super Bowl, did not win another one for 10 years, meaning that if Mahomes wins any Super Bowls between now and the next 10 years or that 10-year mark, he's going to be on pace to Tom Brady. Now, a lot of people will point out Brady did play till he was 45. Steep assumption to assume that Mahomes plays until he's 45 as well. But still, if he wins next year, he will be on pace to top Tom Brady. And I just, to me, Michael, it's hard to see this team not winning at least 1 or 2 in the next 10 years.
Well, yeah, that, but also there's no telling with how, Patrick Mahomes' trainer, Bob Strope, and just how he is going to want to keep playing football when he's winning championships. And so if he can continue winning at a high level where he's in this game nearly every season, it's going to be very hard to walk away from that, knowing that he could cement his legacy as the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Like I said this as a gut, maybe a little bit of an overreaction with some buddies, but Patrick Mahomes could get 8 championship rings. He can get 8. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds absolutely unbelievable, but with how he has won to start his NFL career, being as good as he is, he's had the defense help him out 1 year. This was the defense that helped him win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If they can continue to improve defensively, get some wide receivers, Josh, this AFC, there's nobody that comes close to Mahomes' stratosphere. Like, he's in a different category all by himself, and I think that does matter in the postseason. I think it really matters. It's why guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson cannot beat him because there's levels to this shit. Like there just is. And so once we get, 5-6 years down the line, I think he's going to have a couple more championships, Josh. I really do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just really, when you consider what this team has done in the last 5 years and the current construction of this roster, it just feels really hard to believe that they won't win another one or two in the next 5 years. Not even 10 years, man. Just what about the next 5 year stretch? What about this decade of Chiefs football? Mm-hmm. I think it's likely that they'll get another one.
Yeah. Because, when you look at, like you said, the roster construction, I think a lot of the core is going to be back. And I'm a little bit worried because I don't know how much longer Travis Kelce is going to be part of this team, just because, he's getting into his mid-30s, late 30s. That's going to be something to monitor because he definitely doesn't have more than 2 or 3 good seasons left, and he could still play, but you need to start finding somebody that can, be the new Travis Kelce or be somebody that, is a consistent threat in this offense. But I think, kind of getting back to the point of what we learned, it's that the Chiefs, no matter who they have, no matter, what is wrong with the team, no matter what is, plaguing them at the time, it doesn't matter. They will find a way to clear it up. They'll find a way to get it done. And I don't think that's a safe thing to assume every year, but I've never seen a team make such a drastic switch that quickly.
Well, I put this in my list of things to talk about and what we learned from Super Bowl 58. And one of the things I wrote down is regular season concerns. Like, dude, honestly, after this year and what we've seen, I'm done complaining in the regular season, man. Like, you even go back to a couple years ago in 2021 when this was one of the worst defenses ever through the first 5 weeks, and they made an AFC championship game. And we all thought, no freaking way this team wins a playoff game with that defense. This year we thought, oh man, this offense is pitiful. No way they beat anybody with a pulse in the postseason. And I'll just tell you, man, like, this team has earned the forever benefit of the doubt from me because of what they were able to do this year. It's like, why do we complain about the regular season more? Like, I'm done complaining about the regular season. It doesn't matter, man. Like, from now on, obviously we'll come on here, we'll do our post games and stuff in the future, and we'll talk about stuff that happened and we'll analyze honestly. But, I'm not going to come on here anymore and be like, well, this team's not winning a Super Bowl, because they've shown me that no matter what, no matter how low the lows are, that there is a flip to be switched in the postseason, and this team has earned that forever benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm just not going to care anymore. I'm not going to give my honest analysis. I'll give an honest analysis, but like, I'm not going to pay attention or put stock into anything this team does until the calendar turns to January. I'm done playing the game.
Yeah, it's they've just won so much when you don't expect them to win that you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think going forward, obviously the Chiefs are going to have success in the regular season because, how you play in the regular season normally is how you play in the postseason. But I think, you can get that 1 seed next year and get that bye. You're 2 games away from the Super Bowl, and you're probably playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round. So it's just like, that's the recipe for success, and that's why they're going to be back in this game so much.
Well, do you remember even last year when they barely beat the Broncos a couple times and then went to overtime with the Houston Texans and all that stuff? And we were even asking questions then. It's like, they can do that again. I'm just not even going to care.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but they barely beat San Francisco. It took overtime. We won by 3 points. I don't hear anybody complaining. Nobody's complaining about that because who cares how much you win by? It just matters that you win.
Well, San Francisco's a good team. That's the other thing too. Like,
true.
they were the NFC champion. They were a stacked offense like that. Like, yeah, you'll take a 3-point win against San Francisco because they're San Francisco. But I get what you're saying. It's like, no more complaining about those 3-point wins. All that matters is that you win.
Yeah. That Super Bowl to me was the most Chiefs game I've seen in a long time. It's just like, something is struggling to work, but they just found a way to battle, and ultimately they prevail. but it did not look pretty at all times. And there was a point in the game that I was like, man, I don't feel good. You know what's funny? I've had a bad feeling twice in recent history. It was when Joe Burrow had the ball in the AFC Championship game in 2022 with like 2 minutes to go or something like that, and Chris Jones got that sack. I thought they were going to milk the clock, go down and score. And in this Super Bowl, I thought San Francisco was going to go down the field, milk the clock, and kick a field goal to win it, and we had no chance to score. Thank God I was wrong on both of those, but my gut told me, this is not good.
So I'm actually breaking news on this podcast right now, Michael. I've got some breaking news for you. So this is from Mike Garafolo of NFL Network. Kyle Shanahan says he has relieved defensive coordinator Steve Wilks of his duties as the 49ers DC. So that just happened. So it looks like Steve Wilks will be the scapegoat in San Francisco for Kyle Shanahan, which is another perfect segue into something I put on here, what we learned from Super Bowl 58. Kyle Shanahan can't win the big game, man. And it looks like because of that, he's using Steve Wilks as a scapegoat. Because the next thing I was going to say, Michael, is what the hell were they thinking with overtime? Like, did you see, like, they were not aware of the overtime rules? We got to talk about that because we were not aware of that when we did our post game. But I mean, here, I gave you the breaking news and I gave you that next question. So what are your thoughts there, man?
The 49ers made complaints and complained from the very beginning. The field wasn't up to standard. They had a fire alarm that was pulled at like 6 a.m. It wasn't like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was 6 a.m. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it was a little early, but get over it. They were making excuses from the very beginning, and I can't believe they fired Steve Wilks. Wilks was the reason they were in that football game.
He's a good defensive coordinator, man.
Yeah, and so it is interesting that Kyle Shanahan, who didn't apparently inform his team how the overtime rules worked, which, listen, I mean, I didn't know how the overtime rules worked. I didn't understand that, it didn't really matter the time in overtime. Both teams had to have one possession at least. So, like, once it got close to the end of the first OT period, I was like, they better snap this ball, get it off, or we're done. Didn't understand that at the time. I understand it now. But to be an NFL coordinator or a head coach and not informing your team of a potential game-changing rule is very foolish. So, I mean, the Chiefs are always on seemingly the right side of the coin toss, and even when they don't win it, they win it.
Yeah, man, that's just inexcusable from San Francisco, and it just shows the coaching mismatch that was Kyle Shanahan versus Andy Reid in this game, because the Chiefs had talked about how they were prepared for the overtime rules. They talked about it before the season. They prepped for an overtime scenario and practice leading up to Super Bowl 58. And then you have the 49ers who are like, we want the ball first. And it's like, why? Because you automatically give the Chiefs the advantage because now the Chiefs know what they need to do. They know exactly what they need to do as soon as they get the ball, because even if San Francisco scores a touchdown, the Chiefs not only have a chance to answer back, but they also have a chance to win the game because Chris Jones actually said this in the post game, but they were going to go for the 2-point conversion if they scored, or if San Francisco had scored a touchdown. Kansas City was going to go down the field. They were going to score a touchdown, and then they were going to go for 2 for the win, which
that's crazy.
That would have been a crazy ending. That would have been ballsy by Andy Reid, but luckily the San Francisco 49ers just kicked the field goal, and then all we needed was the touchdown. Thanks, San Francisco. But yeah, just an indefensible decision to elect to receive the ball in overtime with the new rules. Because even if the Chiefs had gotten the ball first and then they scored, if it was roles reversed or whatever, and the Chiefs scored a touchdown, San Francisco still has the advantage because they, one, could either go for 2 themselves if they score, or 2, they could go for it on 4th down if they need to, because they know that the game is over if they don't get it. It's 4 down territory the entire time. So just inexplicable.
Yeah, if it's like 4th and 35 and you're already down by 7, you're going to go for it, or the game's over. So for that reason, yeah, they should have, gotten the ball second. But man, it just goes to show you that for all the crap we give Andy Reid sometimes about his offensive play calling and seemingly like the offense doing very predictable things, I mean, this is why he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Having his team prepped when Kyle Shanahan is also a top 5 coach in the NFL. He didn't have his guys ready to go, and Andy Reid did. And that was probably the difference in this game, because the prepared team more often than not will win. And I think that Andy Reid probably had them prepped for about 50 different scenarios. And that was just one of the scenarios that came into play. I mean, you could kind of just tell that the defense this year had a lot of like high level IQ guys on the defense. I think that's probably why they played better. In addition to not only having the athletes, the guys knew where they had to be when they had to be there. And I think that, the preparation that not only Spags, but Andy Reid brings to this football team is ultimately why you're champions, because that overtime rule, I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I don't know if you knew what was going on exactly, but we're not, on an NFL roster. We're not coaching an NFL team. It is your job to know the rules and communicate those rules to your players. And the fact that they did not do that in the biggest game of the year says a lot about the coaching staff in San Francisco.
Yeah. Just total unpreparedness. And I mean, even Kyle Juszczyk said after the game, I thought you just wanted the ball and scored to win the game. And it's like, no, that's like, and Eric Armstead said that he found out the rules by looking at the Jumbotron inside of Allegiant Stadium. That's how he found out what the rules were in overtime. And it's like, that is just a awful indictment on head coach Kyle Shanahan. Can't do that. It's the biggest, and with how much he's choked in the past on the big stage in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, you would think that he has prepared for this game from every single possible angle. But nope. Just forgot about overtime.
That is a
and he should know about overtime. He was the one coach who was in the only other overtime game in Super Bowl history. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, he's lost both of them, and that is hilarious. But I think something, this isn't necessarily Chiefs related, but I did want to talk about it. I think the San Francisco 49ers are on the verge of a massive collapse. You can kind of see the frustration.
Did you see their offensive linemen calling each other out on Twitter after the game?
Yeah. I think it's boiling over. I think the Chiefs have broken the San Francisco 49ers, because that does not look like a team that has the composure to come back and win this game or even get back to this game. They're falling apart at the seams, from the coaching staff to the players. It just seems like they came into this game expecting to win, and the Chiefs actually put up a fight. And I don't think that they were anticipating that. I think they maybe, didn't take the Chiefs for what they are, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs and the best football team that we've seen in the past 10, 15 years. And that's what came back to bite them. And I think they are going to deteriorate and fall apart. And Josh, I don't know if they get back to this game. Listen, it's easy to say that, they'll be back. Well, I don't know if they'll be back.
Everybody talks about the Super Bowl hangover, and history shows that the Super Bowl hangover is actually for the losing team. Usually the losing team in the Super Bowl doesn't go back. Now, the Niners, we've seen, came back after losing in 54, but that also did not come without failure in the NFC Championship game a couple times. So it's going to be really hard. Like, they were lucky to get back, in 58. It just seems like it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to downplay their accomplishments, but I will. They had a pretty light schedule to get to the Super Bowl. They played a Packers team with a rookie quarterback, and they played a Detroit Lions team that had a really bad defense and imploded by coaching decisions and defensive adjustments in the second half. They were dead to rights in the first half of that NFC Championship game, and they choked. The Lions choked. And so, yeah, the Niners got here, but they were not better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs road to get to the Super Bowl, Josh. I don't know if you saw the tweet. It was one of the hardest of all time. I think it was the hardest of all time.
Yeah, they were underdogs in every single game except for the Miami Wild Card weekend game. So they had to go on the road to Buffalo, had to go on the road to Baltimore. Baltimore was like probably the best team they faced. And I saw Baltimore fans talking about it too after the Super Bowl, saying, man, this was our year and we blew it. They know. And I think that's actually a perfect time for me to read off this tweet. So I'm on Twitter right now, scrolling through different quotes that we're getting from the parade right now. And Ian Rappaport tweeted that Brett Veach was speaking to the crowd, and he said, "Finally, we see what a Chiefs down year looks like, right? This is what a down year looks like. Lombardi trophies in Kansas City." Pretty incredible. Also, I should throw this in too from Chris Jones. Now, people like to say stuff in the heat of the moment at the parade, and I'm sure Chris Jones has had a few drinks himself. But James Palmer is reporting that Chris Jones says, "I ain't going nowhere, baby. I will be here next year, the year after, and the year after." So,
listen,
hey,
man,
just get some different representation, Chris. And yeah, you will be back.
I think Chris will take a discount at this point.
So Adam Schefter actually said on Pat McAfee's show that he doesn't think Chris Jones is leaving unless he gets like some ridiculous offer from another team, which can't even happen unless he actually hits the open market. So if the Chiefs use the franchise tag on him, I think I'm confident in saying that Chris will be here for a while. And that was another thing on my list, man. What we learned from Super Bowl 58 is that it's imperative this team keeps Chris Jones. He saved 14 points in that game. Again, he did that in the Buffalo game too, and he did it again in this game. Like Chris Jones, with just over 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Chris Jones got in Brock Purdy's face on that deep play that was drawn up for Deebo Samuel, where Deebo Samuel actually got open in the end zone. He had separation. He had Snead beat. But because Chris Jones was in Brock Purdy's face immediately, Brock Purdy just had to overthrow it and get rid of it. And then on the 49ers' final offensive player of their season, Chris Jones blew up that play. Like you do not win this year's Super Bowl or last year's Super Bowl without Chris Jones. Chris Jones is priority number one in the offseason for me. And again, we can get into this deeper in the offseason. Who's more important, Senior Jones? In my opinion, it's Jones, man. Like Jones is just too impactful to winning. Like you don't win the Super Bowl without Chris Jones.
No, you don't. And he's been a game wrecker in all of them. All of them. He's been huge. I mean, you go back to 2019 and the batted down passes at the line of scrimmage. And then last year getting to Jalen Hurts. And also I think he batted down a couple passes. And then this year just getting to Brock Purdy. Man, you don't win these Super Bowls without Chris Jones. And, you talking about extending Chris Jones kind of made me think, Josh, they are such a complete football team defensively. Go into the draft and draft an edge rusher or get one in free agency. I don't know how long Omenahu's going to be out with a torn ACL. So maybe he's gone for quite some time, but go get another pass rusher. And listen, we've so often talked about how players will take a discount to play with Patrick Mahomes, and it's never really happened. I think there could be a switch in momentum in that whole conversation. It's easy to say that, after winning one Super Bowl, Josh, they just went back to back. They just established themselves as a dynasty. I think there's players that are lining up out the door to come to Kansas City, and they would take a discount.
Yeah, that's interesting because in the past, like even after the Chiefs won in 2019, we never really did see that, hey, veterans lining up to play for Kansas City for the cheap. We didn't really see that. I think we maybe start to see more of that now because this is a dynasty. The Chiefs have done it multiple times, and players know that they're pretty much signing up to chase a ring here. But like with the actual, like they would be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And I think like Drew Tranquil is a good example of that. He came over from Los Angeles where it just was not a winning culture. And one of the reasons he came to Kansas City was because he wanted to win finally. And he wins a Super Bowl in his first year with the team. So I think we finally do start to see veterans start to line up and play in Kansas City for cheap.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's going to be more people that are trying to play with Patrick Mahomes. And this team is not that far away from being even better. I think right now they're very lucky that they have two of the best corners in the game. You've got Chris Jones. Your linebacking core is good. I think Drew Tranquil, based on what he said at the parade today, you could give him food for the year and he'll be back. Like, I don't think it's going to take much. So I do think that this defense is going to only need a couple pieces. I think Felix maybe takes a jump in year two. He had a snap in the Super Bowl where he actually was able to do something. And then offensively, you draft a receiver, You get one in free agency, and Josh, the entire dynamic of this team changes. And I think that, going forward, the Chiefs really, really, really were able to win in a down year. And that's great. But what are they going to be able to do when they are the best team in the NFL? Because the past couple seasons, they've not been the best team in the NFL. They just haven't been. But they haven't won a Super Bowl when they were the best team in the NFL. So hopefully, they add some more pieces to the offense and the defense in free agency. And they're right back. They're right back in the mix, and they'll be the favorite. They will be the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I think I did see, and Patrick Mahomes was asked about this right after the game, that the 49ers were the favorite for the Super Bowl next year. But I think by the time we get to the start of next season, the Chiefs will be the betting favorite.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't really want to be the betting favorite. I think it would be better if we weren't. But, I mean, I don't know how Vegas hasn't learned yet. I don't understand.
Yeah, they're handing out free money, man.
Yeah.
They're handing out free money. You can't I don't understand it. Like, and maybe this is the game that makes them understand that you can't bet against Mahomes. You just can't. Like, people keep doing it and it keeps biting them in the ass.
Yeah. No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I think another thing that we really learned about this.
We all know.
Go ahead.
We all know why. We all know Vegas doesn't like Mahomes, right?
No,
yeah.
They don't. They don't. But I think what this also taught me, and I have not picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era. I always think they're going to win it, and I predict them to win it, but I don't always feel great about it. I will always pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl when they have Patrick Mahomes. I might be wrong some years, but more often than not, I'll be correct.
Yeah. Man, it just feels good. Feels good to be back-to-back champions.
It feels amazing. It feels absolutely amazing. Man, Twitter's going insane right now. Like, I'm just seeing all of the reports and.
Yeah, there's stuff all over. Some good, a lot of it bad.
Yeah. It's not good stuff. Not good stuff, but.
Come on, Kansas City. You are better than this.
Yeah, that's the quickest way to not do this again if they win. So.
Yeah, don't ruin it for everybody else, man. It's supposed to be a happy celebration. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What is going on? But look, getting back to Kansas City Chiefs and getting back to football. Look, this team was one of the most frustrating to watch since Patrick Mahomes has begun. It was the most frustrating to watch since Patrick Mahomes has become the starter. People will probably mention 2021 and the defense was terrible, but I think this year was so much more frustrating because, first of all, the solution to this was so simple, and a lot of fans, kind of, I guess, predicted it before the season. I mean, we talked about the wide receiver room plenty before the season and how we didn't think it was enough and how they were shouldering the load onto Travis Kelce and it just wasn't fair and all of that stuff. Those were our thoughts, right? But I think why this was even more frustrating than like 2021 is because how could a Patrick Mahomes-led offense be this helpless? How? Like, it should be a fireable offense for somebody to allow a Patrick Mahomes-led offense to look this pathetic. And I think, Mahomes talked about how this year made him a better quarterback, and I think that's one of the things we learned is that you can throw Mahomes, fans from the stands at wide receiver, and he can win a Super Bowl. He did show that. We did learn that. But I said this yesterday too in the video that I did. The experiment, it's hard to call it a failure because they did win the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's what you would call a raging success either, and they shouldn't try it again.
No. Learn from the mistake. Let's not do this again. And the thing is, I know I saw something about maybe MVS coming back if you rework his contract. MVS can come back. I'll say that. but he can't be your number
He
2
can't.
wide receiver.
Yeah, because look, he got a lot of hate this year, and he's going to get cut. Like, he's not staying at that $12 million cap hit. There's just no way. Like, the Chiefs saved too much money. So, I always defended him because I felt like he was better as a number 2 or number 3 receiver. He was put into a role this year that did not fit him, and it made him less productive, and it set him up for failure. And yeah, the drops are on him. Like, that was part of it. It's like, hey, you just need to catch the ball. But we saw how helpful he was to this team last year, and look at his playoff performance. I mean, Kansas City fans, I'm going to call you guys out here. For years, you insisted we keep Frank Clark on this roster because of what he did in the playoffs, even though he was terrible in the regular season. So why can't we do the same for MVS? If he's going to play like that in the postseason, if he's going to have a touchdown in the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl, then why can't we keep MVS around? As long as it's a very cheap contract and he's, your wide receiver 3.
Yeah. He just can't. He just cannot be your wide receiver 2. Like, it's just a problem. And he shouldn't be back for more than a couple $1 million if he does want to come back. Because I also just think that his attitude isn't great. I think you could get other guys with better attitudes and better mindsets to help out, with the wide receiver room. But I also know, I don't know what the wide receiver free agency market pool is going to be this year, but it can't be, that great. But you could definitely replace, MVS pretty easily.
Yeah. I'm sure some people will go down to the comments and they'll say, no, I get MVS the hell out of here. But to me, like, look, if they move on, like, I'm not going to complain. Don't get me wrong. You can find an MVS replacement, but you just can't. He can't be the move, though, of the offseason. Like, you have to find a free agent, and you don't have to break the bank for a free agent either this year. I said that as well yesterday in my video. You can bring in like a Marquise Brown, who I don't think is going to command too much. Again, a reliable, productive veteran. That's all this team really needs. Now, I would like them to add more. Maybe you could add another dynamic running back, maybe another receiving tight end behind Kelsey to kind of take the reins. There's not too much that needs to be done to this offense, and they'll be right back in it next year. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still on Twitter just seeing really bad stuff, so that is my bad. They're not that far away from being back. I mean, shoot, they've won this game the past 2 years. And so minor adjustments, don't tweak anything too large. You don't need to do massive upgrades everywhere.
Yeah, this isn't like the offensive line a couple years ago.
No. But what were you going to do with left tackle Donovan Smith? I wonder if it's Wanye Morris time or something like that.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't know. That will be one of the bigger questions if they bring him back or if they draft another guy. But it'll get kind of messy because it's like if they draft another guy, it's kind of like, okay, do we trust Wanye Morris then? Or like, where does he fit in the future plans? Because, he's on his rookie contract and Javon Taylor's the obvious starter at right tackle, whether people like it or not. So then what do you do with Wanye Morris? I don't know. We'll see. That'll be one of the more interesting ones.
Who knows? But yeah, like minor adjustments, minor changes need to be made. But outside of that, they don't have to do that much. And it's just, give Mahomes something better than what he currently has. They don't have to be the best in the league, just middle of the pack, and he'll get them to the Super Bowl. Like, he just will. And so I'm confident. I don't think Brett Veach is going to have the laid back approach this offseason. I think he's going to go out and spend because Mahomes, I think I saw something. He's going to restructure his contract and to make more money available to extend maybe a Chris Jones or, get more wide receivers.
Yeah, and that'll really help. That'll really help if they can do that. There's a lot of moves that can be made to open up money next year, like a Mahomes restructure and Javon Taylor, I think, can be restructured. We'll see. It'll be an exciting offseason. I think they're going to do a lot. They're going to do a lot of tweaking to the offense, not too much, but they'll do a lot. And I don't think this will be as relaxed as last offseason was. And we have to remember too that like last offseason was really hung up by the Chris Jones negotiations. I don't think they let that drag out as much this offseason. Like that's going to get figured out well before the Chiefs free agency plans and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I think everything will get figured out and the Chiefs will be fine. Like I'm not worried anymore, Josh. I have no worries.
Yeah, me neither. Look, I think we covered just about everything or at least that I had written down for today's episode. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in this one? Any thoughts from the Super Bowl that we didn't cover? Did you see? There was actually a cool clip that came out yesterday, and it was so I guess it was Inside the NFL released like a couple clips of their kind of mic'd up that they had for this one. And there was a play where Travis Kelce was blocking Charvarius Ward, and he was like, "Oh, so you like it better over there, huh? How you like it over there?" Because Charvarius Ward had made a comment about everything being better in San Francisco. I thought that was funny. Travis Kelce was not pulling back any punches in that game.
Nope. And he put his money where his mouth was. He was a baller in that game. But let me see. I mean, I think something that's going to go underappreciated or unnoticed, so to speak, from that game. And we talk about how great Patrick Mahomes was in fourth quarter play and then in overtime. I think there was a serious argument for Harrison Butker being the MVP of that game. Like, I think Harrison Butker was so big, made the longest field goal in Super Bowl history. It was a 57-yarder. We've seen him do that with ease. But he had like 12 of your 25 points. And so when he has been so reliable all season long and in the big games when you need him to make kicks, I mean, Josh, he made the go-ahead field goal last year, and he just gave you 12 of your 25 points this year. I mean, he has been so good in these games, and I think that Harrison Butker deserves a lot of respect.
Yeah, Harrison Butker, and also I kind of didn't really mention it, but we also learned that Andy Reid cemented himself as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And he has a real chance to pass Belichick too, because if he wins a few more, you'll have a conversation. And so it looks like Belichick is taking this year off. He didn't get any of the head coach jobs that were open this offseason. I know Andy Reid was like 40-something games behind him in all-time regular season wins. So if Andy Reid can stack up a few more, 12, 13, 14 win seasons, he could easily pass Belichick for most regular season wins. He could easily pass him in postseason wins. And we'll see about Super Bowls, but kind of like Mahomes and Brady and that debate, I don't think Andy Reid needs 6 to be considered the greatest coach of all time.
No, because Andy's won everywhere that he's been. And so I think his winning is more impressive than Belichick because he's done it multiple places with multiple different quarterbacks. And to have that level of success, once he finally got his guy in Patrick Mahomes, I mean, it just elevated it. But look at Tom Brady and Bill Belichick after they left each other. Bill Belichick has struggled. He's been one of the worst coaches in the league, drafting-wise, and just he's been horrible. And so I really do think that, if he gets a couple more, we're going to have a conversation.
For sure, man. I agree. So, man, look, with all that being said, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. That was about all I wanted to talk about today, but just soaking in this Super Bowl victory. And I know we had to talk about some bad stuff going on at the parade today. Hopefully everything's all right over there. It sucks that we have to talk about that, but it is just kind of reality nowadays. So that sucks, but hey, look, we'll wrap it up, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. You can check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. Michael, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Michael D'Arcy. Go follow me on YouTube at KC Sports Report and on the Bleacher Report app. And my @ is Michael_D'Arcy. And that's about it.
Sounds good, man. That'll all be down in the description below for you guys, as always. Also, I should add one more time, too. I still got that deal going on with the Chiefs memorabilia football from Nico Sports. So it's a really cool championship football, guys, embossed with the Chiefs logo. Stats from the season. It's got an image of Mahomes and Kelsey on there. Really cool. And if you use my promo code SHOWME in all caps and no spaces, you can get an extra $10 off that football. It's a great piece to add to your collection. So check that down in the description below. And make sure you use my promo code. But with all that being said, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Like, share, and subscribe once again. Appreciate y'all being here. We'll see you on the next one. Go Chiefs.